A number of V-Myths readers pointed out a story published in the Los Angeles Times. U.S. intelligence officials believe the Chinese military is working to launch wide-scale cyber attacks on American and Taiwanese computer networks, including internet-linked military systems considered vulnerable to sabotage, according to a classified CIA report. U.S. intelligence analysts have become increasingly concerned that authorities in Beijing are actively planning to damage and disrupt U.S. computer systems through the use of internet hacking and computer viruses. Taiwan, which China regards as a renegade province, appears to be the driving force behind the Chinese interest in hacking and viruses. I love the CIA. In a related event, demoted White House fearmonger Richard Clarke recently told Senator Charles Schumer the president might resort to every means at his disposal, including the use of military force, to repel hackers and virus writers. I sat in the back row of a Senate room in February when Clarke told this to Schumer. He implied the president could launch a physical counterstrike if China ever attacks the U.S. with a computer virus. Now, Clarke didn't come right out and say this to the three reporters who flanked him after the public meeting, but he certainly did imply it to Schumer. As you may recall, the White House refrained from a nuclear response last year when Beijing's hackers declared an all-out cyber war against America. Bush's top demoted fearmonger used his C-SPAN coverage to send a strong signal to China. Leave our PCs alone! Page 2. According to the Los Angeles Times, the classified CIA report... No! Take 15! Take 15! Oh, I'm never going to get through this. Nah, keep recording. We're not going to 16. We're just... Whatever comes out of my mouth, comes out of my mouth. It's take 15. Take 15 is good. See, here's my problem, folks, because I know I'm going to leave this in now. Here's my problem. The guy who wrote this for the LA Times, his name is Lichtblau, which I think in CIA talk stands for light blue. That or German, I forget what. Tell me this guy's not a CIA plant, light blue. And he's got his hands. Some staffer out of nowhere at the LA Times gets his hands on a classified CIA report that talks about nothing short of cyber terrorism. Tell me this document's not a plant. Tell me this document's not a plant. Okay, take 15. Take 15. We're good. There's no take 16. Just, here we go. According to the Los Angeles Times, the classified CIA report claimed China's virus attack capabilities are currently similar only to those of sophisticated hackers. In other words, Beijing's cyber warriors need to do a lot of catching up if they ever hope to cyber attack our great nation. But catching up shouldn't prove too difficult because U.S. antivirus vendors supply China with deadly computer virus technology. I don't know if you know about it, but Clarke knows all about it! That's not supposed to be funny. Clarke said, and I quote, "Oh, during a high-level briefing in January of 2001 when an aide told him about the China syndrome. The Oval Office now tacitly approves the U.S. transfer of dangerous virus technology to China. I don't make this claim lightly." Clarke could have done something about this in 2001. Heaven knows I gave him some good advice, but he chose not to follow it. The classified CIA report, if it's not a plant, mentioned sophisticated Chinese hackers, and I assure you Clarke fears them like he fears nothing else. He fears Osama bin Virus, not Osama bin Laden. Quoting Clarke from a keynote speech he gave after the physical terrorist attacks, "We still have a system that is fragile, that is vulnerable to sophisticated attackers, not the 14-year-old, but a sophisticated group or a nation-state." That would be China, doing multiple simultaneous attacks on the system. Think of the functional equivalent of 4 767s crashing into buildings, not the little car bomb. It could be a catastrophic damage to our economy, and if done at a time of national security crisis, it could be a catastrophic damage to our national defense. Clark previously went on the record to predict the United States will suffer a digital Pearl Harbor so large and so deadly that the federal government needs a reconstitution plan just to survive it. And yet, if Beijing terrorizes our great nation with a computer virus, it'll be because Network Associates and Symantec and Trend Micro helped them while Clark looked the other way. Page 3. Oh, I got through it. Now, speaking as an industry observer, I want you to know it doesn't violate my personal code of ethics when antivirus vendors supply virus technology to any government of their choosing. They can supply virus technology to Iran or Iraq or Pakistan or Afghanistan or Armenia or Azerbaijan or Lebanon or Palestine or Israel or Cuba or Taiwan or China or Canada for that matter. 40 Canadians from Canada are going to write to me now. Canada's not a terrorist nation. No, you're a province of Montana. That's what you are. There come another 60 emails from Canada. Anyway, I repeat myself from more than a year ago when I say that antivirus firms want China to hire them to protect communist computers. As the devil's advocate, what gives me the right to decide what a sovereign nation may demand from its cyber bodyguards? Yet, speaking as an American, I do object to international arms dealers who supply weapons of mass disruption to an oppressive communist regime. As an American, it doesn't matter to me if they sell it to China with the White House's tacit approval. They shouldn't do it, period. Millions of red-blooded Americans pay these U.S. firms to protect them from Chinese cyber attackers. I sound a lot like Senator John Edwards, don't I? But don't worry, I'm not running for the presidency. Clark played a humiliating role in last year's physical terrorist attacks. He now plays a humiliating role in a CIA-predicted Chinese cyber attack. Again, I don't make this claim lightly. Only China can launch an ECBM at us, and you can thank Bush's special advisor for cyberspace security again for not doing his job. All of this talk about the China syndrome led me to... Wait. Let's remember something important here. If you want to study the antivirus industry's cozy relationship with China, you can only turn to 3 sources: the Wall Street Journal, vMyths, and the Register. No other print or web-based news outlet on Earth covered this taboo story, especially not in the computer security world. Page 4. So anyway, all of this talk about the China syndrome led me to revisit a conspiracy theory type question posed by vMyths reader Rob Thompson. With the fact that antivirus vendors are feeding the Chinese viri so they can test their new software to make sure that it works, you don't by any chance think that they are using these files and then reverse engineering them to come up with some of the new super viri that have been popping up lately? That would be Code Red 1 and 2 and Nimda. I am not by any means a virus expert, but I am a computer professional, so unfortunately, I have to work with antivirus vendors when my users get infected, and I would have to say that those viruses and the newer ones that have been coming out are quite nice. Well, I think Beijing really just wants viruses for 2 reasons. First and foremost, they need viruses to kill their national antivirus product. China exhibits a strong xenophobia, and they'd love nothing more than to tell the computer security world to shove it. As a corollary, I think the antivirus industry supplies China with viruses because they don't see kill as a viable competitor. No offense to Pan-Asia, but to put it bluntly, the concept of computer security seems uniquely Western. Page 5. Second, I think Chinese military leaders use the antivirus industry to create scary dog and pony shows. They do it to foment white hysteria, and I believe Beijing adores GW's fear-mongering advisor for this reason alone. Every dollar Clark spends foolishly is one less dollar the U.S. spends wisely. And Beijing knows how to yank Clark's chain. You just plop some nerdy military cadets in front of computers, snap a few photos, make up a story about the cadets' diabolical hacking abilities, and publish it in a vaunted Chinese military journal. The CIA translates it for the White House, and Clark forwards it to senators and congressmen. Washington then prints money in a furious attempt to save Western civilization from the onslaught of an impossible Chinese Uber virus. So, what does a looming Chinese cyber attack and the China Syndrome mean to Joe Sixpack? Answer: it means nothing. All of the pieces will fall into place when I conjecture why the president demoted Clark instead of firing him outright. Page 6. As luck would have it, the man who replaced Clark abhors publicity. So Clark struck a deal with the devil to save his civil servant career. He now plays the role of a clown for General Wayne Downing. Clark satisfies the media's deep-rooted fetish for cyber terrorism stories, and in so doing, he draws the spotlight away from the physical terrorism director. Now, I call it a conjecture for two reasons. First and foremost, this may very well be a classified job description. We're talking about media deception in its purest form. Second, one of my sources has questionable political motives. To put it another way, Clark plays Michael Caine's role in the movie Without a Clue. I do not insult Clark when I say Downing picked the best clown for the job. So relax, Joe Sixpack. Pour yourself a glass of lemonade. Turn on C-SPAN and hum a few bars from Send in the Clowns. Credit where due. My wife came up with that last line. I'm Rob Rosenberger for VMyths. That's VMYTHS.com. Truth about computer virus hysteria. Be there or be scared by planted CIA documents.